Hello, Solo Monk. That's me. I'm Solo Monk. How are you guys doing? Um, Tonight on the second podcast. Well, first off, let me start off with a little bit of information. I actually recorded two different podcasts. It was supposed to be the second podcast, but I couldn't get it. I had two corrupted files. There's nothing I could do about it. One of them was like this crazy noise thing that I used, my mono synth, where I just kind of built like this loop or whatever that just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it sounded so cool. It was about dreams. It's like the whole time I was talking about dreams. And anyway, so it was super ambitious for a second episode of the Solo Monk Show. Didn't work out. Had a corrupted file. Went to all this trouble recording this shit. Did not work out. Anyway, so we're going to keep it simple on this one. We're going to keep it super simple. Okay. Tonight, we're going to talk about composition. We're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about approaching things the way where it always works, you know. It's storming like crazy outside. So we're going to talk about art. Things to keep in mind when you're either writing a song or you're painting or drawing or you're doing design work, whatever the hell you're doing, you know. These are things to keep in mind. Okay. I'm just going to rattle them off because I made a little list, which I'm not good at taking notes or doing notes, but I made a little list. Composition, line, balance, perspective, repetition, contrast, movement, pattern. Okay, what does all that mean? It's a bunch of gibberish. Kind of is gibberish, but when it comes to an overall piece, mechanics, the patterns, the negative space, positive space, these things matter. And it's the same thing with music. All the stuff matters. Texture matters. Context matters. Art's communication, so like because all of it's communication, it all kind of works by these rules that our brain processes this information, specifically abstractions, like constructs that we present to each other. That's communication, but different ways. Dance, visual art. I don't know. Anything. One time I watched this video of this chick put SpaghettiOs in her vagina and then I guess spit them back out, and that was an art show and everybody clapped. And that's art. And just like anything's art, I guess with intent. Or maybe not with intent. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's really, I guess, up to the consumer. In this capitalist system, what is art? The consumer will tell you. That's the only person you can hear from. So when I approach something, essentially, I'll start with a loose idea, kind of a mood or a vibe that I want to go for. Specifically songs. I'm talking here now. I'm not talking about visual art. I do a lot of visual art, but that's more like it's more mystic work. I don't even like try to think about visual artwork in that light. But I've tried so hard and made so much music that like I've gotten kind of mechanical about that part of it. Visual art, no, I just get a vibe and go for it. But either way. Both. Always start with a vibe. Always start with an intent. Always start with like, how do you want someone to feel when they listen or they're looking at something? You want to communicate something. You want them to know exactly what you're talking about. You don't want there to be any kind of confusion. And then you choose your tools, and your toolbox is essentially something you have to work at all the time. That's why you have to practice. That's why you have to rehearse. That's why you have to go over things. You have to constantly be searching and moving forward, so that way that toolbox gets bigger. And as the toolbox gets bigger, everything opens up. You know, understanding composition like way more nuanced ways, and understanding, you know, why things are the way they are, as opposed to being like, I understand there's a EQ shelf and that bass is between this hertz and this hertz, but like, why? If you do it enough, you understand, because everything needs a space, and everything gets muddy if it's, you know, if things don't have their nice little EQ shelves. Like, you have to understand that by doing it over and over again and mixing it, and you could read a book about it and understand the concept, but until you sit there and listen to thousands of records mixing over and over and over again, trying to get it right, trying to figure out what's wrong with the mix, and then after trying for multiple hours, you're like, oh shit, the bass is making everything muddy. Why is it making everything muddy? Oh, because it's outside of its EQ shelf. It's occupying some space that's supposed to be for something else. And that comes from just beating your head up against the thing, you know, muscle memory. And getting good at composition is the same way, like, as everything is. You just keep going at it until you understand it. And, damn, it's raining really hard. But yeah, I tried 2 different episodes before this, and they didn't work out. One was about dreams, because I have these crazy, crazy dreams. Okay, tell me if you've ever had this dream. I have a dream where all my exes are in the same room. There's no exit, there's no windows, there's no doors. It's just me and my exes. You know, ex-lovers, ex-whatever. Ex-ladies. But we're all stuck in a room, and they're all just laughing at me, and I'm just trying to talk to them, and they won't say anything. They just keep laughing at me like I'm the dumbest piece of shit in the universe. It's such a weird dream. It's kind of like a little bit on the nose, you know? And then also I have this dream that's been reoccurring since I was a child. Really weird one. It involves a zombie attack and me being stuck in a house where the walls are falling down. So it's almost like cartoonish, where I'm like running over here trying to hold up this wall, and then I run over here and try to hold up this wall, and I'm grabbing stuff and I'm nailing something, and then I'm running over here and trying to put up this wall. And all the while, like, zombies are getting like closer and closer to inside the house. And I was having these dreams like way before The Walking Dead, so it wasn't a part of like the popular lexicon. I was just like really obsessed with George A. Romero films when I was a kid. My mother would let me rent like scary movies for my birthday, like, and I was only like 6, 7 years old, maybe. And there's this place called Big C Drugs, where you could rent 3 horror movies for $1. So I would rent 6 horror movies. It would usually be Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead 2, and I don't know, usually something crazy. That's where I first saw Dead Alive, which is Peter Jackson's, one of his horror films that he kind of got famous for. They got it exported for, basically, you know, to work on other projects. It's a really ridiculous film. There's like a brunch scene where like he has all these zombies, like his mom's turned into a zombie, like his neighbors, the mailman. Anyway, these 2 zombies start having sex, and one of the heads fall off. It's super gross. And then he just takes a spoon and just shoves it in there and puts it back in. It's gross. Anyway, I shouldn't have been watching that as a kid. It's kind of weird and morbid. And it's weird that now that I've gotten older, I guess I understand more about the idea of gore. And gore is like a really really ridiculous to me now. To simulate violence is a strange thing. I don't know. Like, I guess there's some portion of us, our lizard brains, primordial soup inside of us, that kind of needs that bloodlust. Even if it's just through simulation, maybe. I don't know. I'm a vegetarian, so it's hard for me to, I don't know. A lot of stuff seems profane, unnecessary. Violence towards people, animals, nature. It's all goofy to me. I don't understand. But I don't think people care about sustainability. Funny though, but that's the reason I stopped watching horror films. I stopped watching a lot of zombie films because there was just like too much gore. It was like making me callous to violence and simulated violence. But there's also a cool metaphor about, us eating ourselves, like, especially with Dawn of the Dead, that whole thing was about consumerism. They're in like a fucking old mall, and all these people come back to the mall because that's what they remember doing the most. It's like if you're dead and you're being called back from the dead, and the only thing you can fucking think of is like, I need to go to the mall and get some shoes. That's fucking weird. That whole movie's like super smart. Black hero. There's no like white messiah complex in that movie, People who do bad things in that end up getting bad things happening to them, But it's also not too safe because some good characters die. And that's interesting. You'll never want to watch a movie where all the good characters just live and everything's fine and everybody high-fives each other at the end of the movie. With the exception of like The Goonies. But that's a child's movie. So, I'm talking about real movies. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead's really brilliant. It's all about like racism and classism and just the opening scene where they're in there, like a ghetto apartment building, and they have all the poor people like fenced off or whatever in the basement, the dead people. Then there's people who love their family members that were sitting down there with the zombies. It's like tragic, but like the quality of the special effects is so goofy that it feels more like satire, It's interesting to me. At least that's how I can enjoy it now. When I was a kid, I don't know if I got all those nuances. I just knew it was a different type of movie that made me feel weird. I kind of like when I was a kid, I would just watch movies that made me feel weird. Because I couldn't really quantify why they made me feel weird. And then I got older and I was like, oh, that's why I like it. That makes sense. Didn't think about it then, obviously. And it's kind of interesting that can happen, that we can think about something, enjoy it, consume it, and not really understand why we enjoy it. But we know that we love it, and we can't stop, enjoying it, revisiting it, sharing it with other people. And is everything we share just like us giving ourselves to someone else? Is that why people get so fucking pissed off when you don't like the music they show you? You can't help it. I don't think anyone should lie about what type of shit they like. If you don't like this record, don't listen to it. You only got so much time. Life is finite. You gotta let it go. I usually just give people like 30-second thing. I'm just like, you like it? No? Okay, yeah. Let's move on. It's fine. I don't care. Nothing to prove. It's really a wonder getting anyone to spend time with you the way that we have delved into our phones and the digital void. But I'm not like an asshole about it. I'm not like, oh, it's a horrible mess, and everyone should stop using their phones. I think it's a tool. We need to be aware of it. Just like the government, you know. Yes, the government's evil. But it can also be good if we want it to be. If we want to get involved enough. Just like all the social media. If we respond enough. If we put in, you know, enough flex. We can make anything happen, you know. If some kind of new rule happened and our privacy was being broken and people didn't want it to happen anymore, we could do something about it. If we wanted to do something about it. But I don't know if people care enough. It's hard to get everybody on the same page about anything, you know. The fact that people are still confused about whether Trump should be president or not makes this a very weird country in a very weird time. It's an alternate reality. Bill Cosby in prison for what he did. Michael Jackson's pervert, which I think everybody kind of knew that. Donald Trump's president. Shit's weird. Shit's super weird. Prince is dead. God damn. Yeah. Prince is dead. Forgot about that one. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, what I was originally talking about. Art. Competition. Composition. Not competition. There's no competition in art. Art is communication. There's no competition in communicating. Sure, there's some people who are better than others at communicating, but, you know, it's like a personal thing. It's like from one vessel tumbling through space to another vessel tumbling through space, communicating something, anything at all, through abstractions and shared experiences. You know, it's weird. Keep in mind when creating anything, all you're trying to do is tell somebody something or make them feel something, you know. And the more you work at your craft, the more tools you have to communicate those ideas. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. Thank you for watching this. This is the second episode of the Solo Monk Show. This is the second episode of the Solo Monk Show. Thank you for watching.